Good afternoon and welcome to this month's show. I'm Luke McCormack. During today's show, we will discuss progress being made in cloud computing programs within the Department of Defense and the Department of Homeland Security. With me on today's show are Frank Konecki, Chief Technology Officer with U.S. Air Force, Travis Medvin, Program Manager, PMW 270, Navy Commercial Cloud Services, Dr. Edward Mays, Executive Director for the Enterprise Data Management and Engineering Directorate, U.S. Customs and Border Protection, Nicholas Spiess, Chief Federal Technologist, Snowflake, Adam Prim, Advisory Solution Consultant at ServiceNow, and Andrew Welshel, Principal Solutions Engineer at Okta. Well, we've really shifted this conversation about cloud computing from, sort of getting there and all the techniques we're using to get there to really what we're doing now that we are there. And that's really refreshing in regards to the functionality and capability that's available in this type of an environment. Frank, you sort of shot out as a cannon over there at the Air Force with Kessel Run and a whole bunch of other activities. Give us the status of what's going on over there at the Air Force regarding cloud computing.
Okay, thanks, Luke. We're doing lots of things. I mean, first of all, let's talk about the applications. Kessel Run was just the start, of how we were doing DevSecOps, but now we have 15 actual software factories existing within the Air Force in such a way that we can actually do this much quicker. So we're going down a path of how fast can you actually generate software for this. And according with that, you want to make sure that you can get your ATO. So we have fast track ATO system available so that you can get your ATO faster than normal. We are actually also doing continuous monitoring capability, continuous ATOs. So as we've gone further and further along in the process, we've actually developed a way of getting to the cloud faster, because I think we all realize we're going to go to the cloud. The question is, how fast can I get there and how fast can I make a production level application work? Also, besides that, we have Platform One. Platform One is basically a system of tool sets that have been established to actually speed your way to the actual development of the software and everything else associated with it. And then we have, of course, data. We have our data system, our data thing called Vault, which is basically our data center capabilities. And we're using a lot of that to actually do, data analytics and everything else. And then we get into the AI ML work. We already have that going right now. We have various processes. We have various, in fact, we have an agreement with MIT to actually do some work in the AI arena. So we're doing various applications and prototypes right now. And we also have a piece of quantum in there too, that we're doing some quantum work that's associated with AI for weather. So as we progress farther and farther along the path here, we actually are using cloud in a very different way than just throwing some applications out there that are web servers and things. We're actually doing some real work against mission right now.
Sure, no longer the lift and shift. You're really starting to move up the value chain and take advantage of that massive capability that's out there to do some really important work. Travis, how about over at Navy? I can't help but see the commercial cloud services in your title there. I thought that was interesting. Give us a state of play at the Navy in regards to cloud computing.
Thanks, Luke. I think the big things that we've been getting after is, we learned a lot of lessons from Kessel Run, and we started down our own CI/CD DevSecOps. So currently we have 3 pipelines in production that we're looking at supporting how those go into platforms. I think the big thing that we've learned over the first couple of years of trying to do the lift and shift that you talked about was going into more of an integrated solution and trying to skate where the puck is. So when we're trying to land different things such as IL-6 and what we're doing with the mission owners out on ships and the embarkables with the Marine Corps, it's really important that we look at that integration aspect. So some of the efforts that we're doing in the IL-6 arena, some of the efforts that we're doing with DDIL and our identity strategy has really been pushing us forward in setting that groundwork for how we're going to go into the DevSecOps arena. So it's not really this march to a shiny object that is DevSecOps and pushing applications, but rather an integrated solution that gets us to the end state where these applications could be supported at the forward deployed edge and support foxhole to flagpole, as well as the embarkables on Navy ships.
Right, really laying those tracks down so that you can drop that capability in there and just start, helping that sailor, that airman, the warfighter. Dr. Edward Mays, CBP, by far the largest component inside the Department of Homeland Security, lots of moving parts going on over there, big footprint that you have across the country, quite frankly, across the globe. How are you all doing in regards to your journey to enabling cloud computing for that important mission?
Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me today. And thank you for acknowledging the mission of CBP, securing our nation's borders, supporting trade, supporting travel. We are doing well. I will tell you that we've got about 91 applications in the cloud, and they represent differing levels of complexity. High, medium, low, about 29% high complexity, and about, really about 30% or so for the others. Our journey has been really, really good, and we've made progress in that. We started slow. We looked at, how do we migrate? We looked at the ATO process, and we've followed, cloud first, and we've also implemented, cloud smart. So where we are now is looking at how we bring the architectures together, how we do things in a standardized process to include all of our monitoring. And these are mission apps that we're talking about. So, it is really about driving that value proposition, getting speed to market, getting what's needed to our customer base. And we've done a really good job of that. What we're going to focus on as we move forward is, how do we look at the system holistically, not just the applications, but also the acquisition, also the training and education of our personnel, because cloud actually means that we really have to look at what we're doing from the perspective of human-centered design as well. So we're pulling all of that together. We're also looking at AI and how do we figure out problems before they happen? How do we build our networks better? How do we make throughput better? So we are on a great journey. We've done a lot of good work, and we've got about another literally 200 or so applications that we are going to be migrating to the cloud. We're looking at a multi-cloud and hybrid cloud approach. And I think that at the end of the day, we're going to find that what we're doing is really transformational for the organization and really bring best value to our customer base. I mean, just the ability to move from CapEx to OpEx is really huge. I mean, right now I'm running both a data center and cloud applications, but at some point, as we transfer from the data center to the cloud, less data center will be required, and I should start to see some real value for our customer, as we're seeing in some examples now.
Sure, just really focusing on that mission. I love how the conversation has gone away from, hey, can I get from a moderate to a high, or can I get from a level 5 to from a level 4 to a level 5, to really talking about AI and some of these other things. But I think it's super important. Well, this is a great segue into Snowflake, right? Nicholas, you guys are striped across these agencies, seeing a lot of different things. What's the state of play from where Snowflake's standpoint in regards to the use of this capability to enable these very important missions?
Yeah, thanks, Luke, and thanks for having me again. Always great to see you guys on an afternoon. Going back to what Frank and Travis and Dr. Mays have all said, the trend is very, very positive. It used to be a couple years ago, we talked about IT modernization and cloud migrations. It was kind of take your VMware machines that were running in your data center, move them up to the cloud, roll the credits, right? We had done it, it was over. We're seeing a big shift now. Folks are starting to build software as a service applications. People are building dedicated applications for the cloud, using cloud architectures and cloud best practices. And more to the point, I'm going to go back to Frank really quickly, building on the ATO process, building on those security trends that have been, I'll say annoying to a lot of vendors, have been difficult for a lot of vendors. We're moving into the next version of cloud, I think, for a lot of the Department of Defense, a lot of the federal agencies, where it's getting easier to get ATOs, it's getting easier to build custom applications that really are catered to the mission, and it's getting easier to get your hands on cloud dedicated technologies that make that mission possible.
Right. I'm smiling because I have the noise of ATO in the day rattling around in my head. But I think what is really important is, that stuff's just becoming, somewhat table stakes. And we're really talking about, okay, how do we enable that mission using these capabilities that are available to us and doing it very quickly. Adam, how about at ServiceNow? Once again, a great platform, sort of organically built and engineered for the cloud, and providing some fantastic capabilities across the various departments and agencies. What's the state of the state out there?
Yeah, thanks for having me, Luke. Yes, so ServiceNow is a workflow automation platform. I'd sort of like to take a programmatic approach to answering this question. When you think about measuring progress, it's very hard to do that in any discussion without a series of milestones and achievements. So when I think about DoD and measuring progress of cloud computing, I break it into 4 general phases. I think the phase 1 was the policy, right? And this is 4 or 5 years ago. And I think back when I was a support contractor within the Navy, there was a cloud first strategy put forward. I think that eventually got signed in 2017. But that policy in short said, hey, if you're a program office and you have technology requirements, you must look towards cloud technologies first. And if the requirements aren't executable by those technologies, then you can look sort of in-house to the GOTS applications and systems. So that is an absolute necessity and an important step. But you'll also notice there's not a lot of direction in there. So what happens is that you move into phase 2, which is sort of the execution or the governance phase. I can't tell you how many customer conversations I had 3-4 years ago where they said, Adam, I need to get towards this cloud first policy, but I have no idea how to get there. And so at that point, you have organizations like Travis's NCCS, PMW 270, and other government members probably on this panel saying, we've got to put in place the necessary tools to allow people to leverage cloud computing. I'm thinking specifically of things like having a standardized, centralized contracting model, some governance around who's using what and why, how much are they using, and of course, a good understanding and visibility into the costs. Then you move into adoption, phase 3, right? So just because these technologies are available doesn't mean people are using them. And maybe that's because people don't know that they have access to them, or maybe there's special circumstances, right? Things are a little bit harder on SIPR, for example. But I will say 4 years ago, when I went to work, I rarely used cloud commercial technology. Today, it's hard to imagine a life without it. So it's here. And then we roll into phase 4, the final. And this is where I think that really you're seeing the ROI in the investments across the DoD. This is where we are today. I think a lot of government agencies that are exploring and using cloud technologies have gotten to that point where they're seeing ROI, whether that's in cost savings, schedule efficiencies, things like that. But I think, with regards to how ROI over time occurs, it's generally only improves when you're thinking about cloud technologies.
100%. And another part of that ROI is time to market, right? Just being able to have that functionality available. Quite frankly, sometimes at a moment's notice from an operational standpoint, super important for all these agencies to have that. Andrew, how about at Okta? You can't put this thing together and enable this capability without some of the types of technology that Okta provides. Well, what are you seeing out there as far as across the interagency these days?
Yes, thank you, Luke. And we're, especially from a progress outlook, we're seeing two big things happening, kind of closely related. One of them is even just on metrics when you're looking at FedRAMP and those programs. Certainly a massive number of additional programs available. So just from a progress perspective, that's thoroughly enabling much more agencies to take those services on much more quickly, right? And then the other observation we've seen at an agency and activity level is really kind of a changing of the types of programs. And this is a really exciting space in that it used to be we would see at Okta identity projects that would start out really as a pilot. We knew there might be some more activity later on, but no one really knew. But now there's much more mission-focused applications and core mission programs that are going to the cloud now. So it's a really exciting time to see that transition from just kind of stepping into the water a little bit to doing a full mile swim across the ocean. So
right now I'm sort of fully realized as far as my wiring, so to speak. I've got all my my plumbing in place, and I'm able to now just do a low code, no code, or an organic build in that environment. Know it's going to be secure. Know the availability of the ID management, et cetera. All those table stakes, if you will, hardened and brought together. Super important. Travis, we like to talk about a specific program. Can you give us an example of a specific program that you all are implementing, have implemented, or in the planning stages of implementing in regards to cloud capability, sort of cloud native, if you will, and enabling that your mission there?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the highlights over this past year was our fleet and weather centers. We were able to accelerate our high high-performance cloud computing to support their weather modeling for real-time mission data as it relates to the hurricanes and during the hurricane season. Some of the benefits that we saw to that were one, the near real-time ability to help make those decisions of impacts to those folks in that area, but also as it relates to a lot of the conversation today was ROI. What we saw was millions of dollars annually. What it took to run these models on-prem is now something that becomes scalable, and that you could start to surge that requirement to get a more impactful data that's costing thousands of dollars a month versus millions of dollars annually. That was one of the greatest things that we saw, and you know, it's something that we hope to springboard on as we're starting to do more models for you know, machine learning and AI as it starts to look at the networks and how we support the networks in the future. But this was the springboard for that effort.
Right. Fantastic use case. And it goes both ways, right? All of a sudden I can scale way up and grab a whole bunch of computing and make it instantly available. And then I can shut it back down when I'm not using it, right? Which is, you know, there's some of the beauty of this type of technology. Adam, how about at ServiceNow? Give us an example of one area that you all have been able to implement a capability that's really sort of, you know, knocked it dead in regards to ringing the bell for the agency.
Yeah, sure. You know, we're coming off a day of honor for our veterans, so I just want to say a quick thank you to all servicemen and women out there. And to that end, I'd like to speak to a specific use case with how we're leveraging ServiceNow to help the lives of the servicemen and women and their families. So almost let's decouple IT for a minute and just talk about actual impact to those people. You know, we feel that's pretty special. I'm going to talk about a use case within the Army's government managed housing. So our soldiers, right, and their families are deployed all over the world, right, and they live in houses that are generally managed by people other than themselves. They're managed by third parties, but also the government. And what we saw was a trend in an experience, the delays of addressing house maintenance issues, just like any other homeowner would, right? You've got leaky roofs, you got electrical issues, you got to deal with home repairs. And so they didn't have the control because it's government owned. So a lot of these things were happening over a very long period of time. And this sort of, you know, this reached Congress. It turned into a couple investigative reports. And, you know, you think about it, they started doing assessments on whether, you know, is this what we want our soldiers to be thinking about when they're getting trained or when they're deployed? Things back home. They don't want to be thinking about that. And so ServiceNow came in with a great story, a great solution. The first phase is being able to allow the soldiers and their families to enter housing related cases within our customer service management to check status from all over the world, right? This gives great transparency and visibility within the Army to make sure that these people are taken care of. Subsequent phases are going to include field service management, so making sure that proper supplies and inventory is there for resolving these calls. I also love the fact that, you know, we're tackling CAC authentication needs for people that need it, as well as providing a more public portal facing for family members for, you know, without CACs, right? Because, you know, not everybody has a CAC and not everybody has a need for a CAC, but everyone has the ability to log a case, right? And that portal is being delivered through our mobile app. So we love impacting families outside of the IT world. So we love that use case.
Fantastic use case and a great example of using this capability and making it available sort of worldwide, if you will, which is fantastic. Glad to hear that. All right, we're going to take a short break and we'll be back in just a moment. You're listening to the Federal Executive Forum on Federal News Network.